Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. Everybody needs to pay attention to what's happening in every single country around the earth right now. And the main thing we need to discuss is how they're forcing behaviors. They're forcing people to change behaviors by criminalizing people's speech, by telling you what you can and cannot say. And as human beings, we all should be pushing back against this. I'm going to show you about 10 stories that are circulating right now in all different countries. And the common theme is this word hate speech. And what it's about is censoring and putting laws in place and criminalizing people for talking. That's what we're at in today's world. This is how insane things have gotten. Let's start in the UK. If you didn't hear, I covered this story a week or so ago about a stabbing that occurred in the UK, and then staged riots happened after it. And they blamed it on misinformation. That, they were blaming it on a Muslim, so all these hate crimes started to happen. And then, of course, since then, we have UK authorities who are threatening extradition and jail time for U.S. citizens for online posts stoking riots. And again, we know that the laws are different in each country right now in regards to free speech, hate speech, and all these other things. Some countries, they're criminalizing free speech and the things that you post online. When the digital ID is in place, all countries are going to begin criminalizing people for what they say online because you won't be able to speak anonymously. This has nothing to do with your skin color or your gender or anything else. This has to do with global elites protecting their power and protecting themselves from us. And of course, protecting information from actually getting out to civilians who can figure out, or so they can figure out what's going on, and we could stop this tyranny from going forward, this treason, this global treason that's happening right now from going forward. So let me start by showing you the UK and talking about losing free speech and being criminalized and throwing U.S. citizens out of the UK for online posts. That's how unbelievable the world is in 2024.
British authorities are threatening to hold Americans accountable for online activity the British police blame for stoking violent riots happening on their streets. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
The worst riots the United Kingdom has seen in years. Fueled by false information spread online. Rumors claiming a Muslim asylum seeker is the one responsible for a mass stabbing that left 3 children dead and several more injured at a Taylor Swift-themed event. The suspect, however, is a 17-year-old UK citizen born in Wales to Rwandan parents. The head of police now threatening extradition and jail time to U.S. citizens for online posts allegedly egging on the violence from afar.
If you're a keyboard warrior, you're not safe from the law if you incite violence.
Giving this response when a Sky News reporter asked about the controversial comments made by the riots on X by Elon Musk.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
UK authorities have already arrested their own citizens for online activity. For example, a 55-year-old woman was arrested for publishing written material to stir up racial hatred and false communication. 2 other British men also arrested for social media posts. The Prime Minister sending this warning.
I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online.
We spoke with Aaron Turr with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
The government absolutely should arrest and prosecute anyone engaged in political violence. But in times of unrest, governments have a tendency to overreach and to undermine civil liberties like freedom of speech in the name of public safety.
UK laws surrounding free speech are different than those here in the U.S. And while it's not impossible, it's highly unlikely British authorities will go after U.S.-based social media posters like Elon Musk for violating British laws in an online space.
So this is the future that we're allowing them to create. And this is being done psychologically by design, right? They gaslight people and they make people feel like speech and words are deadly by creating false flags and psyops around them, right? By saying, this guy posted this online, his followers heard it, and then they went and did this. No longer are you held accountable for your own actions. Somebody else is being held accountable for someone else's actions via words, which is exactly what their plan is, which is why they've been doing all this stuff with the trans, with people of different skin colors, different genders. It's all been done by design so that you comply with it, right? Let's look at some of the other stuff all happening at once, where we're actually seeing these mass amounts of stories coming out, talking about censorship of speech, calling it hate speech, right? Recently, Elon Musk talked to Donald Trump. Again, they're proponents of this free speech thing. All this censorship, I might add, again, all started occurring under Donald Trump as president of the United States. I can guarantee you it. In 2017, when he became president, all the censorship flooded in. That's when people were removed from YouTube, and they didn't talk about it then. But as the years went by, and then finally towards the end of his 4 years, they started talking about it, saying, well, it wasn't Donald Trump's fault. It was these liberal tech companies. Well, as the president of the United States, wouldn't you be able to go to these companies and say, if you're not going to allow people to write whatever they want online, well, we're going to remove your company, or we're going to do something towards you and fine you or imprison you as the CEO, whatever, right? But of course he didn't do that, because the tech companies and the corporations are really, they are the government, right? So Europe pressed Elon Musk to curb hate speech ahead of that interview with Donald Trump, right? Other stories, the controversy surrounding the anti-Semitism bill, which again, I covered this story. This bill that was passed is called the anti-Semitism bill. It, of course, protects the real people who you're not allowed to question, you're not allowed to talk about. And everybody out there should say, well, if this one specific group can't be questioned or talked about, maybe I should be suspicious of them. Maybe there's something wrong if you can't question them. Well, they can't question them because they've been victims forever, and it's not fair. Well, that should make you think even more to yourself. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, can anybody say that about, can't black people say, can anybody say anything about being a victim or being under attack? Well, this group has been under the worst attacks of all time. So you can't question anything about them, especially what's in the books that they read. We just want you to think that they read the Old Testament, and we'll leave it there. We won't let Christians figure it out. And if Christians start to figure it out and find Christians who preach this, well, we'll make sure they don't, because they'll be censored under this new law, right? This law is another law that will not only censor free speech, it'll censor Christians, because the Bible is going to be included in what you can and cannot say in this anti-Semitism bill. So that's another hate speech thing that they're pushing. Recently, Meta, Instagram, failed to curtail hate speech against women politicians, right? So now there's hate speech against women politicians. And this isn't about protecting women. It's not they want you to think it's about protecting you, whatever group you fall into, a woman, a black person, a Mexican person, a white person, a gay person, a straight person, a trans person. It doesn't matter. They're hitting you with stories at every angle to make you suddenly get so desensitized that you go, oh, that's hate speech. Oh, that's hate speech. That's hate speech. Instead of going, I don't give a crap what this person says. That's how normal humans actually have functioned for all these years. By going, all right, I don't care what they say. Or if somebody says something that really hurts your feelings, you say, hey, apologize or knock it off. Or, we're going to have to take this outside and handle it another way. But of course, we all know in 2024, breathing on someone is considered assault. So speech, of course, is like the newest nuclear bomb, so to speak, right? So all this stuff with Musk. And then we, of course, have these other stories that are floating around, right? You can go on like ESPN or any of these sports websites. Jaron Durant suspended 2 games. Why was he suspended 2 games? Well, a fan who was yelling at him, yelling things that he sucks, he's not a good baseball player, right? Eye for an eye, maybe? You'd think he could shout something back, but what he shouted back, well, you can't say that, right? And of course, the word that he said back begins with an F and ends with a G. And in fact, in all this stuff that's been going on with censoring speech, they've taken away probably the best word that anyone's ever come up with. I mean, it's a day-to-day word that most people still try to use. They just can't use it on the internet anymore. But Jaron Durant used that term. A fan yelled at him and said stuff towards him. So naturally, you would think that somebody could defend themselves and yell something back. But they tell you can, but only if you say the right thing. So because if he just said to the person, F you or screw you, then nobody would care. But because he used this word, which is a homophobic slur, well, now he's suspended 2 games without pay. And again, these stories are out there, and the way that these teams respond to it, shows you that they're in on it, because all the corporations and all the sports teams, et cetera, do the same thing. They're doing this so you see it. And they know by you seeing it, they're telling you this is how you have to live now. This is what you can and cannot say. And this goes back to Larry Fink and behavioral control.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
Here's another story. Ray Gunn, the Australian Olympic Committee, condemned disgraceful online petition attacking Rachel Gunn. Rachel Gunn apparently was a breakdancer at the Olympics that did this hideous, embarrassing thing, which now, after seeing this story, seems like it's very set up, right? So we had a breakdancer. Everyone looked and said, this person, there's no way they qualified to be a breakdancer. They're absolutely embarrassing. This is horrific. How is this at the Olympics, right? Even though we should probably have the notion of how do we even have Olympics or why in the world would breakdancing be a part of the Olympics? That should be the real question. But people were upset because they said this was horrible. It was a disgraceful performance, right? And after the fact, you, of course, see why they came out and put this person in the Olympics to embarrass themselves, because you're hurting her feelings now online. So people started an online petition attacking her because she was so horrible. And the government and the Olympic Committee are condemning people for criticizing a horrible performance. This is what so look at where we start, right? Anti-Semitism bills, homophobic slurs, hate speech. And then look how it filters down. This person danced on TV, was awful. But you're hurting her feelings by saying she sucks, right? So to people out there, no matter what your belief system is, do you start to see where this is headed? Do you want to be able to have an opinion on things? Then push back against this. But they don't want you to push back, and they won't let you push back because they're trying to control your behavior. And anybody out there that listens to this stuff and then repeats it and says, oh yeah, we need to watch what people say, that person's feelings were hurt, they're a part of the problem, and they're no different than being government stooges themselves. They're just people who can't freely think and are very easily moldable. And the government is molding these people into complete sheeple. So Ireland, another story. Ireland to clamp down on social media companies who are refusing to remove hate speech, right? Oh, okay. And then you have all the stuff going on with Muslims and Israel, right? The anti-Muslim speech online, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, anti-this, anti-that. They're dictating what you're allowed to have an opinion on, what you're not. They're dictating this stuff because you're getting emotionally invested in, oh, well, I'm for Israel or I'm for Palestine. They shouldn't be able to say anything anti-Semitic. They shouldn't be able to say anything anti-Muslim. Oh, okay, so let's get laws in place. And then the next thing you know, those laws filter down to, let's say, a horrible breakdance performance at the Olympics, and people online mocking and getting a petition together to say there's no way this person should be there in the first place. Or how about even the other Olympic story? They put a boxer in there that nobody knows if it's a man or a woman, right? Punching a woman in the boxing fight. Every single celebrity who is a conservative, every single alt-right media like the Daily Wire, threw out millions of videos condemning it, making fun. Oh, I can't believe this. We need to do something about it, right? Problem, reaction, solution. Oh, well, that boxer wasn't really born a male. She was born a woman, supposedly, and is now suing people who posted stuff and mocked and ridiculed her online. Oh, right. So that shows you how COINTELPRO works, right? The Daily Wire, all these companies out there, all these media companies, all they did was pull people in, right? Being the agents they are. So now more laws are going to be in place to protect people, but it's not to protect anybody. It's not to protect a gay or a trans. It's to protect these wicked global elites. Because the more stuff that's in place, guess what? You won't be able to question the news anymore. You won't be able to question anything in regards to them. This isn't about protecting anybody's feelings out there. It's about protecting their own arses, so to speak. So keep in mind, all of these stories are happening within a week of each other. Okay, and they're happening in every country. Some hate speech thing there, some hate speech thing there, at the same time as that Social Security story and how people's Social Security numbers have been hacked and how Australia is now rolling out their digital ID and other countries need to do so as well. Why? Well, the tie-in is that you can be criminalized for what you post online. So in other words, say, for example, you're a YouTuber and you've gotten banned from this platform. I can't think of anybody who has, but let's just say hypothetically, right? You had lots of subs, you got banned, you got thrown off. It's happened to a lot of people, right? Well, what if you just kept coming back and kept coming back? Well, they don't want that. And the only way they can prevent that, of course, is if you show your face, which is you giving up your identity anyway. And then they could criminalize you and do what they did to Alex Jones, which of course was all done by design to set a precedent on what you can and cannot say online, right? And of course, start criminalizing conspiracy theorists. But let's just say, for example, you're thrown off YouTube, you were anonymous, you keep coming back. Well, with the digital ID, you won't be able to go on the internet. And in fact, with a digital ID, everybody will be known in the internet space, right? So all of these things tie in together. They're going to criminalize speech. And it's only because we're allowing them to get away with this. Don't let your feelings get sucked into this stuff. People need to grow a pair, okay? Grow a pair. Somebody hurts your feelings. Part of the problem is that, everybody's allowed to say something, but you can't physically confront anybody about it because that's considered terrorism now, right? So people's words don't have actions. And people are saying, wait, I want somebody's words to be held accountable. Well, in the past, how are people held accountable for what they said? If you said something to someone really offensive, like if you were walking down the street with your boyfriend or your wife or your husband, whoever, right? And somebody said something to them and you were like, what? And you hit them or something? That's how people would handle stuff. Now, of course, as they've made people weaker and more emotional, more fragile, that stuff's considered assault. Not that I'm condoning that. I'm saying, for an example, in the past, people would say, hey, look, this person said that to, their face. Hey, they got to, reap what they sow, right? No. The government goes, no. Not because they want to protect you from a fist, because they want this stuff in place. And this stuff in place with words means you can't do anything about it. But guess what? Big Brother will put laws in place to protect you and your feelings, but ultimately be about protecting themselves from the truth ever getting out about who they are, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. That's what this is all about. And once they have full control of the internet, it'll be very hard to find any truth anymore. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.